Hello, welcome to Whispers from the Phylactery. Thank you for joining me today. I've been a game runner for 15 years, a storyteller. I just want to use this opportunity to sort of talk about some concepts and things that other people might enjoy in tabletop role playing games. And today I'm focusing on how I prepare world building. So, the camera's different because I'm on my laptop. But we are going to swap over to the sheet here. This was the best way I could think to do it. Normally, when I world build, I like to use pen and paper. It just feels more natural for me. But, well, beggars can't be choosers because it's hard for me to show what's going on paper. So, for today, I'm going to be focusing on creating a village. I do have an idea for a sort of a dark forest adventure. Forest adventure. And then the basic synopsis here. Ooh, if I can spell. So, a black dragon is going to fall into a forest after being defeated. And it doesn't really matter who defeated it. It could have been another dragon, or a knight, a hero. Really, it's just something that doesn't bother investigating, leaves the body. Maybe it's a jerk of a hero. They don't clean up their mess and finish the job. So it falls into the forest. Its blood and its essence will corrupt some of the trees and create a Golgotha tree and result in twig blights and other cursed spirits. So it's thinking on it now. It'll be a Golgotha tree, and it will be corrupting a dryad. We'll actually put a question mark there because I'm not really sure about the Golgotha tree. And then the dryad will be the final adversary that the party needs to fight. And so, because it's going to be a dryad, it's relatively low level. I'm thinking it's going to be an adventure for levels 1 to 3. A lot of the enemies will fall into that range. So realistically, in my mind, anyone between any party could do it between levels 1 and 3. So we're gonna need to, for this little project, we need to flesh out the village. We need to flesh out NPCs that will aid the party in their quest. I'm thinking there's going to be a druid that asks the party to investigate. The forest, because they're the ones that notice that things are going on. They might be too old to investigate themselves. We are going to have the dryad as an NPC, the corrupted dryad. Party might be able to cleanse them. Should leave that option open. Combat is never the only well, sometimes it's the only option. Cleanse the dryad and the tree. The tainted corpse. Bam. Okay. And then I'll probably think of other formatting. I'll deal with that after. So the village, I want to flesh out the forest trip because most of the adventure will be in the forest. Well, 99% of the adventure will be in the forest. So we're looking at enemies. We're looking at possible maps. We are looking at just things of that nature, hazards and natural traps. And then, of course, we have the boss section. What does the tree look like? What environment is the battle in? I'm a big fan of like cinematic battles, so I do want to have like a brief notes in my description for just the setting of like you enter into the grove or the glade. The trees have become gnarled and twisted. Welcome to Tristram. The trees have become gnarled and twisted, and there is the scent of rot and decay, the cloyingly sweet smell of fruit that has gone bad as a corpse is wrapped around this tree, or the dragon is half in the tree, or something like that. Enemies. Adding into the forest trip, I want to list a couple encounters. Generally 2 to 3. 2 to 3. And then there'll be a mix of enemies or puzzles, hazards. There's not going to be a lot of puzzles in this one, just because it doesn't really lend itself to puzzles. And we sort of go from there. Okay. So that is my basic outline for myself. I know it's going to be low level. I have a few different places that can be part of the adventure. So we're going to start off with today, the village. So when I'm designing a village, I really like to look at it and think, first, who lives here? And in most D&D worlds, because I want this to be agnostic for when I share it later, the majority population is going to be human. We have humans, and what would be the follow-up population? We're looking at standard worlds, we're probably going to be looking at halflings. Well, before, yeah, I get, see, worldbuilding is always cyclical. You just think of things. So the village is going to be a logging village. Population, mostly humans, halflings. We have some elves, and maybe a dwarf or two that serve as the blacksmith or merchants, things like that. So we'll do 2 dwarves, we'll do 15 elves. I want it to be a relatively small village, so there might be like 100 people total. So if we do like 70 humans, that's 17, so we need 23 halflings. There we go, that's 100 people. And that gives us some wiggle room for NPCs. So it's a logging village. We have a rough population breakdown. So if it's humans and halflings, then we're probably looking at Meadowland in a relatively peaceful country, butting up against the forest. And that sort of makes me think about, well, now I'm thinking of Warhammer the Old World, where Bretonnia butted up against the force of the Wood Elves, the Aeserai. So I don't want to use the Bretonian setting because, well, they're awful. Feudalism at its peak and grim dark. So we need to look at the politics of the city. How's it run? And it's probably just done by a mayor system voted in. Ooh, voted in. And they probably have a council of uh, elder people for either the races or the different trades. We're probably looking at a council of trades. And the big trades would be, of course, logging, the merchants association in the town, or the farmers, because you always need food. And I think, yeah, so we'll have a mayor, and then there will be 3 advisors. And this might not even really come up, right? It's unlikely. And then, so we have NPCs. We have a mayor. We will have a sheriff or captain of the guard. We have the druid that lives just on the outside of town. You know what? What we can do is we can look at this as they are an elf. And the incident where the dragon fell is now outside of living memory. We'll specify human living memory. And the druidic elf was watching it. And it's finally gotten to the point where, over the decades, the corruption has built up. To a tipping point. So now we know the druid is an old elf. Male, female, doesn't really matter. They're an old elf. They are powerful in themselves, potentially, or they are just in tune with the natural world. They came here to retire. To this village to retire. Okay. Captain of the guard might be a dwarf. Oh, hello, squeaky demon. Hello. Okay. Captain of the guard could be a dwarf. Who has veteran experience in conflicts, but doesn't have the manpower to protect both the loggers, so the settlement, and deal with the threat. And deal with the threat in the forest. Which kind of gives us a reason why they need to call the party, is the local militia isn't capable of handling it. The mayor. The mayor. Part of the thought process here. The mayor will probably be a human. We'll say middle-aged. They're respected elder amongst the community. Although it gets kind of weird when there's elves that are so much longer, but elves have a very aloof look at settlements and problems, as we're seeing with the druid. Yes, you are very loud. So, a human mayor that they want the settlement to handle their own problems. The captain of the guard is advising them that it's not going to work that way. They don't have the manpower to deal with the threat. And I think we'll have a hunter NPC, an older hunter, or maybe a younger hunter. I'm just trying to see a younger hunter who doesn't have. They're a hunter. They're not a ranger. This force is relatively safe, as far as safe goes in a D&D setting. So they can advise the heroes of what's out there and give general directions. when combined with the druid who knows you can pinpoint more of the source of the taint in the forest. Okay. As far as shops go, because people always want to know, we'll have a small temple. Well, it's more of a shrine to an earth god, earth forest god, or earth forest community that the villagers pray to. Bountiful crops, yields. I'll just put yields. Okay. We're gonna have a general store and a smithy. So realistically, players can get the supplies they need to go out and explore this. And then, of course, there's always a tavern because that's where traveling people stayed in feudal societies like D&D. Depending on uh, how common magical items are in your setting, how much they're worth. Like in Pathfinder, a shrine might sell healing potions and things like that. Um, in D&D, healing potions are a lot more expensive. You're not likely to find them at a small shrine in a small town. So it really depends on your setting in your system. But we'll go from there. Ooh, that's not what I want. So this is basically what I've plotted out for the village. We are looking at a mostly human settlement. There are some halflings, there's elves, a couple dwarves. They are a logging village that is having issues now with blights and the wood being tainted in their forest. Then the captain of the guard has advised the mayor to call in and help from outside as they are not able to defend the loggers and the settlement while going to deal with the threat. And there's an older druid, well, druid mostly in name, they might be 1 or 2 level. They can't handle it themselves, but they're an elf that has taken too long of a view of this problem. Maybe the dragon crashed down 90 years, 100 years, even 125 years ago, and it wasn't thought to be a big problem. It was another dragon that fell in the forest, but its essence has tainted the local wildlife and trees, and now you're having twig blights come out of everywhere while you're trying to log. We have a tavern, we have a smithy, we have a general store. These things don't really need names. They could have names. We'll go Swallow's Perch. I'm just pulling that off the top of my head because I like swallow birds. We have a smithy. We have Cragtooth's Forge. Um, I like alliteration, so we're gonna go. Um, so Fern's Farming. No, it's just the smithy. Um, so we'll go Cragtooth Smithy. People just call it the smithy because it's a small village. It's the smithy. It's run by a man named Cragtooth. How he got that name? Well, good question. General store, it's the general store. It might have like Esmeralda's general store. Yeah, sure, we'll go Esmeralda. Esmeralda. Esmeralda's general store. And then a small shrine to the god, which would just be the god's shrine. Or the NPCs. What should the mayor's name be? I'm picturing, so if there's If they want to do it themselves, it's probably a stubborn older man. So we're gonna go with Kendrick. I don't know why. I just feel like Kendrick. Kendrick. Um, Walden. Kendrick Walden. Captain of the Guard. Ah, Walden and Balden. No, won't do that. Dwarfy name. Dwarfy name. What are we gonna do for a dwarfy name? Thoric. Stonehue. Yeah, why not? Thoric Stonehue. Maybe Stonehue is a title that he got at some point. Then the Druid. No, the Druid is Alabaster. No. Why not? Alabaster. Or Old Man Willow. Maybe he makes his home in a willow tree, and that's the reason for the name. Mm. That's Old Man Willow. And the Hunter. Let's just go Creighton. I don't know why I feel Creighton, but we'll do Creighton. Creighton. Younger Hunter. He's not a ranger, he's just a man. Okay, so we have our population, we have the settlement, we have the NPCs. At this point, you could do up a sketch of the settlement. I would probably just do a quick one. What you'll have is you have your building, you have your main shops, then you would have, so you'd have the smithy, the tavern, the general store, a small shrine, maybe on the outside of town. You would have a larger building as a communal hall where the mayor and the council would sort of meet up to discuss things. You would have a number of houses, farms. You're looking at a relatively large settlement just because 100 people. And then it would be surrounded by farmlands and extensive logging sites. That's actually a good point there. An NPC would be the logging foreman. The players will probably be asking them, Johnson, McNeil. I don't know why I feel like McNeil. Neil. Oops. Ooh. Okay, Control B. There we go. I feel like that didn't work. It did, okay. So he's a human, heads the logging company, which is a subsidiary of a larger mercantile group. It's a company town. They'll be able to give the party general info on what's been attacking. On what's been attacking the loggers or the natural hazards, trees coming to life, that sort of thing. Okay. I feel like that's a pretty good starting point for world building. That is sort of what I'd like to do. And we're looking at 24 minutes. So it doesn't take that long to really throw things together. And this is more in depth than general session planning. This is sitting down, trying to get it really good. And I'm writing this all by hand. So that's it for this time. Next time, I'm going to go over the next section, just sort of figuring out the forest, kinds of encounters that they might inquire or might encounter. And then the last one after that will be the boss section. And that'll be detailing the dryad and the dragon skeleton, what it looks like, the maps for that. gonna have to think about a way to do that. But thank you. If you've made it this far through my rambling and my tossing and turning, and the cat that occasionally comes in to meow, then thank you. If you liked it, consider leaving a like and a comment on any ideas you might have for this village. I'm kind of interested to see what other people might have to say, what they might have to contribute. Or if you have a cool idea that you want me to world build next, then shoot it my way and I can look at it after this small adventure. If you're interested in seeing more, consider hitting subscribe. But for now, that is everything. I will see you another day. Goodbye.